I'd like to call this governing board meeting of Wednesday, December 20th to order. It is 5:33. Lisa, roll call, please. 6:33. My computer says 5:33.
Yeah.
Thank you. Present.
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 Here.
Present.
Thank you. And I would like Mrs. Alma Farrell to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business is adoption of the agenda. Do I have any motions or amendments?
Possibly an amendment, but Dr. Chestnut and Mr. Beckett can probably help. I do want to remove something from the HR schedule, so you want to wait till we get to that, or do you want me to remove it now? Because I want to do a separate vote and discussion.
We can remove it and have two motions on that item like we've done in the past.
Move it during HR?
Yes.
I mean, during,
Yeah,
when we get
yeah,
to
you
7A?
could- Yes, you can motion, we can motion to have the HR schedule without that individual
When we get to
item,
that.
and then,
Okay.
yes, and then that item.
So I don't
and
have to
then-
do it now?
No, you do
Okay, I
not
didn't
have
think
to.
so.
Are there any amendments?
No, I'll motion to approve the agenda as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't have any blue cards. Do any of you have any blue cards?
Nope.
All right. We're going to skip over the call to public. Not that we don't love hearing from you, we do, but you got to fill out those blue cards. All right, superintendent's report. Dr. Chestnut?
Thank you, President Coutre, members of the governing board. Several things to report on tonight, and we will start with Rotary Students of the Month. I know Alma Farrell is here, so I'll turn it over to Alma.
Sorry. Let me hold this for just a minute.
As always, the Rotary Club would like to thank Dr. Chestnut and the governing board for allowing us to recognize outstanding students at our school. We as Rotary appreciate that because we hope they're going to be our future leaders of our community in the future. And it's very good for them to start at this early age to learn how to be leaders and to give service above self. So with that, in case anybody does not know that Rotary is a very long international organization that has been taking place since the early 1900s. And what it is we support service above self. And what we say is we have what we call the four-way test. And the four-way test is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? Those are the things that we work with as business people and in our community. And service above self is what we work on more than anything. So at this time, I would like to not only thank the board, but I'd also like to thank the parents of Ivy Keene, who is a Maricopa High School student. Her mother, Lori Mataski, is here, and so is her grandfather, Ken. And so is Raymond Robinson from Desert Winds Middle School, and his dad is here. No, it's Raymond Robinson. His dad is Robinson Torres, okay? And he also has two brothers here, one that's in high school and one that's in college. Thank you all for coming to support your child. I'd also like to thank Mrs. Salaya, Mr. Abel, and Mrs. Rusinello for nominating these students and acknowledging them. So we'll start off first with the Desert Winds Middle School student. Raymond, would you please come forward? Raymond is an 8th grader at Desert Winds, and he's the son, as I said, of Mr. Robinson Torres. Rotary is told that Robinson participates in athletics in many classes and activities, including after-school activities. We're told that he's a model student, a hard worker, and always wants to do the best. We're also told in Rotary that he's a great leader in his classes, and many students look up to him. He is also actively involved in community functions as well. We are told that he's very organized, self-motivated, and wants to learn. Desert Winds has loved having him as one of their students. Mrs. Celaya reports that he is the type of student that teachers hope to have. And he works extremely hard on each and every assignment, going above and beyond teacher expectations, and is a great leader across all grade levels and gets along with everyone. Congratulations, and thank you for being such an outstanding student. If Ivy Keene will come forward. Ivy is a senior at Maricopa High School, and she was selected by the staff and administration there, and Mrs. Bernadette Rusinello was the one who nominated her. Rotary is told that she has great citizenship status at Maricopa High School. She's involved in many activities such as the Link Crew, National Honor Society, and DECA. Mrs. Rusinello is her college and career counselor, and she says that she's a phenomenal student since her freshman year with a very positive attitude, unstoppable work ethic, and commitment to school and her community. Rotary's also told that she has amazing leadership skills recognized by the school and the state. She has a great passion for the theater. She is actually the state director. She is, okay, let me back up a little bit. She has a great passion for the theater by being a student director, actress, and she's president of the Arizona Thespian Society with aspirations of being involved in Broadway. But she's also willing to return to Maricopa High School to be an English teacher and theater teacher. Great. Congratulations, Ivy. And those are only 2 students. Thank you.
Congratulations again to Rotary Students of the Month. It's always fun to hear about what great students we have. Moving on, just to report on a few things that have been going on the 28th, we had our quarterly meeting with Maricopa Education Association, and this year we're doing a little bit different. We meet with the entire cabinet group, meets with the officers from MEA, and that was a good discussion. On December 1st, we set a new enrollment record, all-time high of 6,892. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens next month. We tend to peak, usually December, January, but who knows? This could be an interesting year, and we'll just see have to wait and see what happens. Big news to report. I think you probably heard about this on the 14th. It was announced that our blended learning program in grades 3 through 8, located at Maricopa Wells Middle School, Desert Wind Middle School, And Santa Rosa Elementary received the Golden Bell Award from the Arizona School Board Association. They only give out 3 awards each year, and ours was for K-8, the K-8 Elementary Program of Excellence. And we're very proud of this program, as you know, and that was wonderful recognition. And I actually have the video, I think, that Garrett's going to roll in the back, that was played on the awards lunch.
Yeah, 'cause it was good.
Turned out great. Hopefully he can enlarge it or make it work.
Hi, we're from the Maricopa Unified School District.
And we just got a Golden Bell Award.
4 years ago, the Maricopa Unified School District Governing Board approved a new blended learning program for 50 students in grades 6 through 8. The goal of this program was to focus on a personalized learning approach for all students. Daily, students use collaboration and communication to solve real-world problems in a project-based environment. Technology is fully integrated into every lesson, and students learn how to interact with the technology in a meaningful way. In grades 6 through 8, the 21st century skills that blended learning students learn include green screen video production, website creation, app creation, and 3D printing design. The students also develop presentation skills that allow them to be successful in project-based competitions. Much of their academic work is done on a personal laptop, completing teacher-made lessons and using online curriculum materials. One of the best examples of how this program has provided student growth and success has been involvement in various state and national competitions, such as the National Future City competition. Middle school blended learning students began participating in this competition in 2013. In the 2017 Arizona State Regional Future Competition held at Arizona State University, 16 teams represented the blended learning program from both middle schools and earned 16 of the 34 awards at the competition. Student achievement has also been a big part of this program. Blended learning students passed AZ merit tests with higher rates compared to district and statewide percentages in math and English. Today, the program has increased in size at Maricopa Wells Middle School to 180 students and 6 teachers, as well as duplicating the program at Desert Wind Middle School with 135 students and 4 teachers, with a total of 315 middle school students enrolled at both schools. In addition, all classrooms at Santa Rosa Elementary School in grades 3, 4, and 5 serve 169 students in blended classrooms, with a 1-to-1 student laptop ratio. We look forward to seeing this program grow and impact more students every year. Congratulations to the Maricopa Unified School District Governing Board for being named a Golden Bell Promise Program Award recipient.
So the video turned out well, and I apologize, the audience couldn't see that too well. It probably had something to do with the way I put it on the slide. But it is on the website. If you go to the curriculum link, curriculum department, it's on the page there, and I tested that out today, and that one does work. So you can see it full screen and maybe see it a little bit better. But wonderful recognition. I'm very proud of the growth of this program. And, you know, Santa Rosa is the elementary school that has embraced blended learning the most of our 6 elementaries. But we also have a lot of other teachers at the other elementary schools as well doing blended learning in various ways. But every classroom at Santa Rosa, grades 3 through 5, really is committed to blended, and then, of course, the 2 middle schools. So proud of that, and we got some great photos. The people that actually received the award, the recipients, were the 18 teachers in the blended program between the 3 schools. So we couldn't take all 18 because, you know, it's hard to have that many people gone in one day. But we had 6 teachers, 2 from Santa Rosa and then 2 from each middle school. They were on stage receiving the award, and of course they took the opportunity to take a selfie in front of the crowd there, which was fun. And but anyway, the award itself is sitting right there in front. It has the names of all 18 teachers on there, and we're proud of every one of them. And then, of course, the trophy had to travel around to the different schools the last few days and get pictures with everybody. Great. Because, you know, the students earned this award as well for the good work they're doing, and so that was fun to celebrate that with the students, I know. So I got some great pictures there, and I didn't get, so those are the pictures from the middle school. I think we got all the blended kids there in those pictures, and then the 2 classrooms that presented for Santa Rosa. Amy Hunt is here, I know, tonight, and Shannon Hull is here also from Desert Wind. So we have 2 of the teachers here, but anyway, it was definitely, they were part of the celebration, and the students were pretty proud of that. It was fun for them to be in the video, and they didn't all get to be in the video, but wonderful recognition. Then the other cool part was when you win the award, then you have to do a breakout session at the annual conference and go in depth more about your program. And so those 6 teachers from the selfie did that and did the entire presentation, did a super job, and had a large crowd that attended, which doesn't always happen at a breakout session after lunch, you know. And then people hung around and asked tons of questions, a lot of interest in this, and a couple different superintendents asked if they could do some visitations, and I told them to contact me, then I'll contact the schools, and they want to come see us in action. So anyway, it was fun just to share, and I thought the teachers did a superb job of just talking about what the program is all about. Other things been going on. Yesterday had the Certified Advisory Committee meeting, had a great discussion with them, and I always put out a recap of that meeting, and you should be looking for that soon. Another great picture here. This is the Maricopa High School Lifeskills Garden, and the teacher in that classroom is Andrea Brannon, and a couple other of her parapros in that picture, along with their students. They have a new garden that they've been working on this year, which is pretty cool, and they've been working with the University of Arizona Ag Center. They've already harvested lettuce and radishes, and they are waiting anxiously for tomatoes and broccoli. And then they're planning a field trip to the local UA Ag Center in the spring. So a good learning opportunity for those kids, and kind of a cool thing. I thought it was a good picture. I wanted to share that. The January newsletter will be sent to 20,000 households in Maricopa as an insert to the In Maricopa magazine. So look for that the first week of January. That's coming. There's also a copy of that posted on the website if you want to get an advance copy. Administrative update. We are recommending tonight the governing board make these positions, put these positions in place for second semester. We're recommending Amy Stump as assistant principal for Maricopa High School, science teacher at Maricopa High School, a highly respected teacher, and she will move into the assistant principal role beginning January 8th. And likewise, Joby Thompson would be interim dean of students at Maricopa High School. Joby is graphic design teacher, CTE teacher. That position is interim. Amy Stumps is not, is what we are recommending. So we're excited to have those 2 positions in place. And then this one I think you already know about, but on January 8th also, Ivana Santee, I think we approved this at our last meeting, will become assistant principal at Maricopa Wells Middle School, and that's the first day that she will start over there. So once those people are in place on the 8th, we'll be back up to fully staffed in secondary administration. So we're excited about all 3 of them, and we had a lot of applicants, a lot of really high-quality candidates. It was not an easy process, but I think we ended up with 3 really good people. So we're excited about all 3 of them, and that's it.
Thank you. All right, governing board member reports. Mr. Judd, we'll start with you.
Thank you, President Coutre. On December 7th, he attended the winter choral performance led by Ms. DeCoste. She did an amazing job. The music program here at Maricopa it continues to impress me between Mrs. Poore and Ms. DeCoste, just doing some amazing things. She had the crowd into it at the beginning. It was really an enjoyable performance. But that's all I have to report. Thank you, Ms. Coutre.
Dr. Miller.
Yes, thank you, President Coutre. Well, I tell you, that Lifeskills Garden looks a lot better than mine, so they're definitely doing some greatness there. You know, most of us know that today is December 20th. Some of you may not know that today is the International Day of Solidarity. So if I can just take a moment of silence, just to meditate a moment on peace and ability to find common ground, and also for us to celebrate diversity. So I'd just like to take a moment of silence. And then also, as we know, Friday will be our break, so I'm sure a lot of people, teachers, students, everybody is really anticipating time with family and friends and some time off, so I definitely wish everybody a pleasant time and safe travels. And also, I did visited Maricopa Wells Middle School, and so Principal Miller walked me around and saw a lot of great things and improvements going on at the middle school, and a lot of the students all the students that I saw were engaged, and so that was very, very great to see that. And I know they're very proud of their courtyard, and all the grass and, seeing those upgrades and, seeing the difference in that is really good. And, some of you know that one of my children go to school at Maricopa Wells, so it's always nice to walk in the classroom and not to embarrass him, but, he kind of creeps down in the chair and inevitably, one of his friends, hey, Michael, is that your dad? So it's always good just to, to be there and support. I know a lot of us have children there, and it's great to, be part of that, and just so they know that we're present. And also, Dr. Chestnut and I, we had the opportunity to go to Santa Rosa. And so we toured the building there and met with a lot of great teachers and students and, seeing them all engaged. And and President Coutre was there too, yes. And, seeing all the kids, the students engaged in their activities was very rewarding. And so my next trip that I plan on, I know I've had a lot of visits at Desert Wind lately, but it was non-official. But I definitely appreciate Desert Wind staff and their support of one of my other children. And so my next step is actually to take an official tour. So I will arrange that with Principal Celaya. So with that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mrs. Noor?
I don't have any report. Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson?
He's got to make something up.
I'm looking forward to hearing about what you guys learned at the conference. So
All right.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So you want me to go, you said? Okay. All right. So first I want to say I am so proud of our military, and I want to thank all of them for their service. So, and the reason I say that is because my month got started off with being able to accompany our high school junior Air Force ROTC to escort the families of deceased military in the state of Arizona through the airport. And so what it is it's called American Airlines Snowball Express, and they do it every year. American Airlines fully pays for everything, and they serve the families for deceased military members up to age 18 in all the branches, so it's not just one branch. And so they pay for a week's vacation for these families to be able to just kind of recoup and have a good time. So our ROTC students are phenomenal, first of all. Full uniform, they escorted us through the airport, and it was pretty nice to get some of those looks, through security, because they just let us go right through. So it was, they're in uniform, and kudos to Colonel Kirksey. He's got enough connections that these kids get to do so many experiences to help them throughout their lives. So it was great to see the families. We actually did have a snowball fight. It just played with the kids, had snacks, and then it was pretty emotional when they all boarded the plane. But our students were phenomenal. I mean, I was so proud of Maricopa. It was amazing. They got the opportunity to meet General McGuire, who is the general of the state of Arizona, and then one of his first his PIO officer actually used to live in Maricopa, and so we've got a little bit of connection there. And he did say, if you guys need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. So it's just nice to be able to see some of those connections, and have our students be able to participate and to hopefully go to the next level. So it was a great sense of pride, and if any of you ever have a chance to go on any of their field trips, I would highly recommend it, because it is truly a blessing. I mean, it's amazing. So that was the start of it, and then the conference was right after that. A couple of quick takeaways. I don't want to take away Mrs. Coutret's, what she wants to talk about. But the ones that I want to bring up is there was an organization called GLSEN. And it was and I attended with Dr. Chestnut. And it's about the Gay Lesbian Student Education Network. And it's basically information on how to bring everybody together to a mutual understanding and how to make sure that our kids are safe, regardless of what is going on. And I just was very impressed by the resources that are available to our high school for free, that they will come out and actually talk to staff or talk to board members, but it's through Arizona State University. It's all data and research based. They've got curriculum, but it's all research-based curriculum. It's all results. They've got the data. So I was very impressed. So I do have that information, but that was one of the things that I was excited about. And then the other one was, I know that we do a lot for teen suicide, but I don't know that we ever do enough. But one of the booths they had, it was called Teen Lifeline, and they provide free educational services, information, workshops to schools. And the one thing that's really, really cool is they have this sticker that goes on the back of every single student ID, and all it is an 800 crisis line number. And I just thought, how easy is that? Because our middle school kids, even some of our elementary kids, but our middle school kids and our high school kids really could use that resource. And it's pretty easy, at the beginning of the year, it just goes on the back of their ID. So I just wanted to throw that out there for, admin, district office, board members. But I want to make sure that we are being proactive and making sure our students have the resources that are available at no cost. So there's that. I've got a stack of stuff to give to Tom and Aaron, and of course Steve's got his stash. But it was a great conference, and it was made me very proud also to have our blended learning teachers present. They did a great job. And another presentation that I went to was Baltz Elementary School District. They have a phenomenal mentoring program that has data and, again, results for student achievement, teacher retention, and so that's, it's good to see what other places are doing and how they're being successful, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that was, I could talk for probably another half hour, but that's in a nutshell. It was a great conference, and I thank you for the district for letting me attend.
And it was a great conference, and to see, we're not reinventing the wheel anymore. Maricopa is now making the wheel. We're actually turning it, which is a far cry from where we were many, many years ago. So I'm really, really proud of our district. I did attend the pre-conference, which was that Wednesday, and it was really good. ASBA really put on a lot of good speakers. It was all basically leadership training, teaching you how to think, knowing what data is. It's not just the numbers on a piece of paper. It's reactions from parents. It's reactions from students, watching them interact in class, out of class, in school, off school. So it was a really good pre-conference. I was glad I went. A couple of the breakout sessions that I went to one that is has to do with tech-based supplemental curriculum. It's free. I have that information that I'll be passing on to Krista and Wade. But basically, you can do different modules of this, and it's sponsored by other businesses, but they have like a financial literacy one that could go easily into an economics course, and it's based for middle school and high school students. That was a really good one. The other one was, it's called Gear Up, which is a grant. It's a federal grant. Currently, it's been awarded with NAU. And you basically start when the student's in 7th grade, and you follow them through high school, and it's to get more students graduating and going to preparing them either for secondary, college, for college, for military, for the workforce. But they do it in a way that is very interactive with not only the students, and they're keeping track of that student as they go, so they don't slip through the cracks. So they don't start out in 7th grade and then slip through the cracks when they're in freshman, and then they're not addressed again until senior. And so it was a really good program. So I have all that material that I'm going to be sharing again with Krista and Wade and probably the high school admin. Then, you talked about the field trips for the ROTC. I've been in contact with Colonel Kirksey, and I'm going to be joining them in March when they go to the Luke Air Force Show. So I'm excited about that. I did get to go to a couple of schools before the conference. I did visit Santa Rosa Elementary with Dr. Miller and Dr. Chestnut. And then also I joined Dr. Chestnut for the tour at Santa Cruz. And what's really kind of nice is we're starting to really now take a look at our aesthetics in our school. They're starting to paint the schools. We're putting in artificial turf in the courtyards, so it's looking, green, and we don't have to worry about rocks getting kicked around. It's really kind of nice. And then I was invited by Butterfield Elementary. They did their first Shark Tank, and so I was invited to be a judge. And it was so cool to see the thinking and the project-based learning, which again is kind of where that's the direction that education's going. And these kids, what they came up with was just super amazing. So I was very honored to be asked to do that, and I hope they ask me again. So with that, we're going to move on to our information work study items, and first up is Desert Wind Middle School. Mrs. Salaya.
Good evening, President Coutray, members of the board, and Dr. Chestnut. Thanks for inviting us this evening to talk to you about our new math curriculum at Desert Wind. You asked us a few questions that we'd love to answer for you. The first is, how has the new Envisions math curriculum been implemented at Desert Wind Middle School? We're proud to say that everyone, all of our math teachers are implementing that curriculum. We've provided computer carts to each of the math teachers, so the students do have access to the technology to utilize that curriculum. In addition to that, all of the students have the workbook that goes with that, and that has been very helpful for them. It's been a supplemental resource for their practice in class, at home, in homework, and also for note-taking. On the slide and in your hard copy, you can see that is a quote from Ms. Titus. I did ask the teachers for input and some of the students for input on what they thought about implementing the curriculum. You can read some of that and also some of the student comments, which are really fun. I do have a whole list of those, so if you want me to send you, some of them are quite funny. With only a few slides, I only put a couple on here. Okay, you would also like to know what progress have we seen so far. Before I get on to that, I do want to say that one of the biggest things is, as we moved into that curriculum, all the teachers are using it, but some are spending some additional time, having to reteach fundamentals in order to, keep up with that curriculum and teach the grade level curriculum in there. So we're playing a little catch up now, but it's working. Okay, so as we move on, the progress so far, we've learned about the rigorous curriculum, and I'll let Shannon speak to that.
Good evening. Pearson is very fast-paced, sometimes way too fast. But we are able to use some resources within Pearson, especially online with the reteach and the enrichment for the kiddos who need more. But we are able to do some reteach if the kids seem to need it. There's also an assumption with Pearson right now that our kids come to us at grade level or even above. It's not the case. But we don't have time to really build that up as fast as this goes. So that's a little bit of a learning curve for all of us at this point that we're trying to get used to. Also, one thing that's come about, and you'll see in some of the kids' comments also, is that there are a lot of word problems. And hopefully this will get better over time. If everybody keeps using this curriculum and all the kids get used to reading and writing more about math, it will become easier for them, but that is a real hitch that the kids seem to have right now.
When it comes to differentiated instruction, Pearson really, that's my world. There's really more than I really can use in one setting. The diagnostic testing that identifies and assigns a prescription of lessons to develop and reinforce a student's depth of knowledge and understanding for a math concept. Intervention lessons that break the math concept into chunks, so this way it'll scaffold step by step for students that struggle with mathematical concepts. The pre-assessment for each chapter, which are called topics, and they identify material that may need to be retaught from prior knowledge that students do not have, or it can also be used to identify students that may need enrichment in their math course. And for me, the best part is the data-driven differentiated differentiated instruction that meets the individual needs of all my students. It's really difficult in RTI because they're all over the place. And with Pearson, I have the tests and the intervention lessons and everything available to help them not only fill their gaps in their mathematical knowledge, but also to get them to grade level and support them in their mathematical classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with Pearson, our students have the ability to be in control of their education. The program gives immediate feedback and provides additional resources that can help students be more successful in the classroom.
I think what you hear repeatedly with Pearson is the ability to go into it, have it be at various different levels. What I've seen in walking in classrooms is that there's a variety of different levels of kids and groups of kids working. So we're no longer doing direct instruction to the whole group. Does that make sense? And now we're able to differentiate that, put kids in small group instruction at different levels. It's been kind of fun too to watch the kids that really kind of excel through this, and they're really excited because they can go on, you know, and that way we're not, you know, we're not stopping and making them wait until, and playing, you know, having them wait until we get the other kids caught up. The thing I thought was funny up here was the student that said, and it's a sign of the times I realized, I like how I can see my math book whenever I want, and I can catch up with things I haven't done before. Well, when I read that, I said, well, what were you doing with your math book if you couldn't see it before, you know? But they're so technology driven, yeah, that it's something that they're really engaged in now because it's all based in a technology platform. Okay, moving on. So I want to say that I don't have data for you because they're just finishing their finals and everything right now. So it's a little early for us. I'll be curious to see, you know, what that nets comparatively, you know, as we move through the year. So I'm excited to see all that. They're finishing it up this week. In terms of improvements, in technology, we're ensuring that all of the computers are updated and compatible with the software. So we have a couple of old cards, so we're having to re-image some computers to make sure everything's working correctly. I know we talked about the pre-topic assessments. We're really encouraging all teachers to use those. It is a great way. There's a lot in this curriculum. There's so much, and the teachers are somewhat overwhelmed as to what everything. So you're trying to play with all the bells and whistles at once. Can be difficult, but you know, and going into room checks and talking with teachers and talking with Shannon and Diana and Rashawn and Sam, you know, Mr. Reether, you know, finding out who's working with those pre-topic assessments and how they're utilizing it. You know, teachers are very used to owning that classroom all by themselves, aren't they? And they want to assess each student their own way, and this has an assessment tool in it, and so it's getting them to, you know, trust that platform that it's going to do some assessment for them and make their life a little bit easier when it comes to that. Also, teachers' autonomy. I think this is an important component. As I've said, teachers become teachers because they love their content. They love what they do, and they love explaining it to people. And, you know, so it's been a little bit of a transition for them to go, okay, here's this content, and a lot of it can be on the computer, but understanding how to navigate that, where they can do direct instruction, explain some things, work on the computer, utilize the resource of the workbook, use the help button, the tutorials. I saw that in Shannon's class and watched how all of that comes together, and it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to do for teachers. So again, a lot of the bells and whistles that are in there and utilizing them correctly and in a timely manner. I think homework has been a big thing, meeting with parents and saying the kids, because they say, I don't have any homework, and the parents said, yes, you do. And now to sit down and tell a parent that all of this is accessible online to them at home, there's a lot of the parents shaking their heads going, really? Mm-hmm. Really, right? Really? You told me you didn't have any homework, or you couldn't get, you know, there's not a worksheet anymore. It's not, doesn't have to be the workbook. It's online too. And it's been nice to be able to sit down with parents and say, look, and they say, I can't help them with math. And I said, you know what, but that little button there, that can help them. There's a video on there with the person explaining it over and over again in different ways. So that's been really nice. The most important thing for me in looking at the big picture of this is the integration of School City and really doing what I think that we need to do is to sort of audit all of these platforms together, right? We have School City, which has been wonderful. We have Pearson, which is a great curriculum platform, each of which has assessments, right? So we do the curriculum online with Pearson, then we're testing in School City. It's important for us to look at those two platforms and see how they align, because ultimately, right, our goal is to align with AZ Merit. And so when we see all three of those at the end of the year, it'll be great to come back and have that conversation, say, you know, how did this all work together? I have encouraged my teachers to create a test in School Cities as they're teaching their standard, even though they have it in Pearson. I want them to create a test in the School City platform, give their students the assessment on the standard that they taught through Pearson, and see how that works, and see how that's aligned. And so we're kind of working on that. That's been interesting. And now I'll really, once we have all of this information, I think it'll be really helpful once we get all of the midterm benchmarks done. I thought I'd throw in there what they didn't like. And Shannon said it earlier, I just like how it has word problems instead of multiple choice. Well, I sat through Shannon's couple classes, and I just liked it too. I couldn't figure out the one. I was really stumped on a couple of them. But it's been really nice because it's taken away that rote memory of procedure, the way that we all learned. It's taken that away, and now it's teaching them to get word problems, real-life application, and turn it into an algebraic equation. And that's been, it's been interesting for me to sit in classrooms and see that as well. So that's been a real positive part of that. So with that being said, here's my last comment about the curriculum. I think this is a collective, we all agree on this. We believe that the curriculum is a very fast-paced and are concerned that we may not be hitting all of the standards efficiently. It is very fast. This may be solved when the vast majority of students are at grade level and teachers are not spending time teaching fundamentals in order to address the rigorous curriculum. So as anything else, just like Ames when it came out, AZ Merit, 3 to 5 years, I think you're really going to see an improvement here, you know, as it comes, you know, up the pike from the elementary schools. And talking to some of my colleagues in leadership, they're really enjoying some of the, you know, implementing the curriculum at the lower levels and seeing some real improvement with the kids. So I'm anticipating us seeing it as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Jerry, I think you had a couple things you wanted to add.
Yeah, I just, as a math coach, I'm in and out of the classrooms working with the students and the teachers. And just a couple things, the rigorous program and just the overwhelming amount of material that the teachers have to use. It's just a matter of them learning what works best for them in the classroom and how to incorporate both the online material and the paper pencil. Some teachers like to be completely online, some are just paper pencil, and then some are a combination. But just really deciding what to do with the students and how to use the curriculum is a big, it's just a learning curve for both the teachers and the students. And as much as our kids like technology, it's really interesting when you first put them on the computer with math, they were very resistant to it. And then, but I just keep telling the teachers, just keep on pushing them, and then usually within a week or two, I can see a huge change, and the kids are hitting that help button, and they're not raising their hands so much, and it's just really a neat progression to see the kids as they start learning and taking some of that responsibility onto themselves. And another really positive thing that this curriculum has is at the beginning of each lesson, it has a introductory kind of an explain, explore type question. And it's non-guided by the teachers. The kids read it, and they're supposed to work with a partner in a small group just to figure out and create their own strategy. So it just helps develop those math skills that so many, you know, we've just been so just basically kind of hand-feeding our kids throughout the years, and now we're just kind of pushing it back on them. So yeah, they're resistant to it, and it's hard as teachers because it's a different way of teaching. But just in the first semester, I've seen a huge progress in what's happening in the classroom, so that's really a positive note.
I have to say I watched a teacher that's never taught before. He came in and we hired him for math. And he came in wanting to teach how he was taught. And it was, and he's a young guy, right? But it was hard to get him, like, trust the computer. Trust that curriculum, it's going to be okay. You know, so it's navigating it. Any questions for us?
Go ahead.
I do.
Ms. Saleh, do you have, and do the teachers have access to the technology that they're going to need in conjunction with the curriculum, i.e. smart boards, everyone has projectors? Is a large portion of that curriculum dependent? I'm probably going to ask that of every school that comes up here and reports, because I just want to make sure that you guys have the tools that you need to, in order to be able to implement what the curriculum's providing.
Mm-hmm. I think, we certainly have the projectors. Is it called a smart board? No, we have Mimios, but what's the new? What is that? What is it called? The new?
The touch point, it has multiple touch points.
Whatever, we're testing it, and I don't know what it's called. It's that interactive smart
I'd be
board.
willing to bet that it is, because I have one in my classroom.
It's
and they're
awesome,
wonderful.
right? I just want to
Yes.
stand up there and swish it over
They
to
have
the
a
next
computer
one.
on the back of them, and it basically gives you
it's
access
not.
to the internet. You can actually lay it flat like a table, and it will respond to 10 different touch points. I think that's because they're becoming very popular.
We have one here. We're demoing it at Desert Wind, and it's just been a wonderful resource. So that'll be really fun to play with.
Good.
And I think mostly it's just making sure that our technology is keeping up and working
Right.
fast enough and all of that. So I think for us at Wind, because we ended up with more kids than we thought, we just need we need some more computers.
Right.
And then the older computers, which are, like I said, they're a bit outdated, and we're having to re-image them so that they continue working.
Right.
But the projectors are in every room. With kids having every math teacher having a full cart, then they do have that
Right.
access, so that makes a difference.
I just want to take 1 second to explain, because it's probably going to be a question I'm going to ask for anyone at home or anyone that's here tonight. That technology is going to be becoming increasingly a part of the curriculum that we're going to purchase.
Yeah.
And that's something that the public and everyone really needs to understand. In order to be able to make full use of that curriculum, you need to have the hardware in your classroom in order to be able to get everything out of it. So if we're going to invest the money into a nice-looking curriculum,
Yes.
highly rated curriculum, we need to have that component as well. So it may be things that are, spending items that are coming up in the future, but I just want the public to keep that aspect in mind.
Absolutely.
Great question. I have a couple of questions. And I appreciate your honesty about the curriculum and, where the struggles are, and because that's all important for us to know so that we can, when we make decisions, we can help, in whatever areas those are. So I have two questions. They're a little bit different. But the first is, when I first came on the board, rather than purchasing curriculum, we were using Beyond textbooks. And I guess I just want to make sure that, I want to ask, do you feel that this Pearson math is better than the Beyond textbook system that we got rid of?
There's no question. This is night and day. This is
Just wanna make
apples
sure.
and oranges. One is a complete curriculum, and Beyond textbooks was sort of pacing calendars and suggested pieces of curriculum based on other teachers' input, which was an ingenious. I wish I would have thought of that idea. It's ingenious. It came from Vail, if I
Right.
remember correctly. But this is completely different. This is night and day.
Okay.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but I think this is looking a lot more like the way AZ Merit is beginning to question students and the drop-down menus and the multiple answers and things. This is much more mirroring that, and that's my goal. That's why I'm saying we need to look at all these platforms. But to answer your question, can't even compare the two. This has been a great investment.
Great. That's good. I'm glad we're moving in the right direction. I just wanted to
Me too.
make sure. And then you mentioned Pearson has its own assessments, and it just made me wonder, does Pearson have enough of an assessment system that we don't need maybe another assessment system?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, as we go forward, something the board needs to consider. If Pearson has an assessment system, do we need the extra assessment system that we're using?
Well, the extra assessment system you're using is encompassing more than just math.
Okay.
So you're having ELA, math, science.
good
So,
point.
you have all of those components in there, where Pearson is just math. And so with Pearson, you're probably purchasing curriculum independently. School City is a platform by which assessments are assessed per standard in each content area, and what you're purchasing is banks of questions that are aligned to AZ Merit and the standards, where this is a full-blown curriculum of what to teach. The two of them together, a great thing, in my opinion. Does anybody have a different one? I think School City's been, I mean, we're still navigating that too as well, right? And so I'll probably have more information at the end of the year when we've started looking at both of those. But again, I had a math teacher that built his own test in School City. After he taught the Pearson, then he built his test in the standards he was teaching in School City, did the assessment, and he was really pleasantly surprised. You know, and saying, oh, okay, so what Pearson's doing over here is kind of happening over here. And then there was a part where he thought he taught really well, and he thought Pearson, you know, was kind of on it, and it, you know, and then you have to decide, is it the curriculum, the pace, or how we're delivering that instruction, you know, as a teacher, so.
Yes, well, thank you all for everything you do. We
You bet.
appreciate it.
I would like to make a comment and then ask a question, but first I'd like to thank for each one of you for coming here tonight and presenting to the board. Really appreciate that. My comment is, you know, I understand that change is not easy for anyone, and I'm sure we all recognize that. I definitely recognize, you know, change is not easy. And for me, being a behaviorist, I kind of going back and forth between analog learning and digital learning, and I know we all learn differently. But I just want, in terms of my comment, I'm reading a really good book called Transforming the Difficult Child, a Nurtured Heart Approach. And within that, I had this aha moment where it talked about these emotionally challenged children. It's like playing a video game. When they learn to play a video game, they do do a great job because the boundaries are already defined. So just like in technology with the math and things like that, those perimeters are defined, so there's really no challenging, you know, what that is. So they have to learn that, and they do pretty well, you know, overall. They have a natural ability to do that. And I know when I've done some site visits and talking to some of the math teachers, I know I've heard, you know, that was one of the things that they really liked because, you know, the students were there and they were able to work through these math problems and, you know, everything's defined, so there wasn't really kind of going past that. So it seemed like that there was less challenges, although, you know, there's that learning curve. So for me, I just thought that was an aha moment and can see, you know, how well technology is, and especially for the emotionally challenged children. So a question that I have in looking at a lot of the math curriculum, there's a lot of word problems. And so I'm wondering, how are you, teachers, helping the children that, because some are at different reading levels. And so it may appear that they're not doing very well in math, but yet they can understand it and do it, but they just need some of the reading kind of being a challenge. How or if are you addressing that, and if so, how are you doing that?
Well, Pearson has intervention lessons, like I said, that break down a standard. So for any struggling student, a student that is not at grade level with reading, you use an intervention lesson, and it's fundamental. So it teaches that math content conceptually to where they have to do it by hand, and it breaks it down step by step to where they take the words out and give them a template to follow. So for instance, solving a two-step equation, in Pearson it will give them words and have them write an algebraic equation, to where in the intervention lesson what it does is it gives them a template on how to solve it first. So kind of like backwards design. That's how I look at it as. You know, instead of starting at the bottom, it's starting at the top. And so once a student understands conceptually and fundamentally how to solve that problem, then you can put it into word problem form and use highlighters and having them identify the main idea, taking from their English class. And if they identify the main idea in their word problem, they do much better. But first they have to be taught how to do it because they already have that struggle. So you have to take those words out and teach them fundamentally, then put them into a word problem, and it really is successful.
And so then, are there additional supports in the classrooms that the teachers have to help the students with just the reading? I'm really concerned about just the reading component for students that are just having issues with the reading.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It also has text-to-speech.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it does, again, it'll mirror AZ Merit too, having text-to-speech. So there is that. I think in addition to the host of manipulatives that we have, I mean, we have a great resource for manipulatives too. So, yeah, I mean, that's built in. I think they, you know, from that standpoint, they'd be remiss if they didn't consider some of those things, in the preparation of that curriculum, especially a company like Pearson.
I have a couple questions, and go ahead.
I had one short question in terms of, I know that now the curriculum is coming with a nice handy guide to do curriculum mapping, and I was wondering how that was working out for some of the teachers. I know doing curriculum mapping can be a challenge if you don't have this very nice, easy guide. But I know that having gotten my own a couple years ago, it basically does it for you. It shows you where everything is. You can align standards. And I just was curious to see if that was making it easier for teachers to be able to do the curriculum mapping.
Well, I think the curriculum map is within the program. It's kind
It's
of
like it's
there.
done for you, essentially.
Yeah, it's
and
done
can-
for you.
Okay.
It's telling you what to teach when, how long.
All
and
right.
so forth.
I only bring it up because I know it's part of our, it's part of our goals. So
Strategic
it's
plan.
it's something that we're, now it's, I don't want to say that you can take less time focusing on it or take it out completely, but the fact that it's almost coming done for you. Where in the past,
and
it was
that's the
something that you had
difference.
to put together. Yeah.
When you purchase a curriculum like that, you're getting it soup to nuts kind of thing. You're not having to reinvent a wheel. They've done that work in alignment for you with standards. Our job is to test it, right? Our job is to really test it.
My turn? Okay. So, a lot of talk on School City, on the assessment tool. What hiccups, now that you've gone through it this first time, what hiccups were
In
there?
School City or in Pearson?
In School City. On the assessment piece.
Right. I think, well, we were just learning that today, weren't we, Sherry? We were just saying, okay, just trying to decide what, how the dot cam's going in, and making sure it's punching in not the raw score, the raw score versus the percentage, making sure the student rosters are right. It's very similar on any of the programs like Galileo. You're just double checking rosters, making sure that is. What else did we find? Did anybody find anything in terms of School City hiccups? Yeah, it's a very easy platform.
We do it fully online, so it's easier for us. We don't have to do any of the paper pencil, we don't have to do any of the gray cam stuff, so it's a little bit easier for us. We've had some hiccups with certain tests and how they were set up and blah, 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 but I think.
But that's correctable. The test, that you can set them up differently.
Yes.
We push it to our grade book, that's what makes it priceless.
That is huge. Like, we were talking,
Okay.
we were saying that you could just now with the dot cam, you're just scanning like you do at the airport.
Right.
Your boarding passes,
Right.
making it easy. The hiccup that I see is that learning, and Shannon, I don't know if you've used it and or created enough assessments, because when you're doing math, you're like, again, we're still working on creating those assessments in School City to, sort of audit. But they pick a standard, you're picking a standard first, and then you're going to the bank of questions. And I think what I recently learned is that you can pick multiple standards and then address a question that addresses multiple standards based on what you want. At first, I thought it was just one, and then it took me, I was like, oh, okay, you can do that. So that's kind of nice, rather than
That is
going one
nice.
by one,
That is nice.
Mhm.
Cool.
They're enormous.
They are? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I did the reviews for all the math tests, and I actually have to do one standard at a time, and I still have up to
It was like hundreds.
400
Yeah.
Wow.
So it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right.
But some are small too. But yeah, you have a lot to choose
Okay. Okay. No, good. No, that's glad, because I know that's all new this year, and
Yeah.
the math curriculum's new, so, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that was one of my other questions for Mrs. Early is, how are the teachers handling it? Are we getting a frustration level? Do we need to do more training, or is it just a matter of using it? I just want to make sure that teachers aren't going to.
Well, we had an additional training for Pearson. We had them come out again and do their second training. So we were able to bring out some of the, the basic questions we had. And they just seem to be, just learning it and doing really well. School City, we haven't used it as much, but what we're using it more of is some are doing some of the question banks and making some maybe quizzes or small tests. And actually the Monday we come back from break, I'm doing a training on School City and Envision test building together.
Okay.
So that'll be for the math teachers, so they can come to that, and work more at that. I've done a lot of the stuff for School City for the math teachers, like I did all the reviews for them. So I've gotten a little bit better at it. So if they need help, I can help them. But We did another school city training also on top of the Envision, and the teachers, it's pretty simple.
Okay, so they're coping. They've
Yeah,
developed
and
their
it's
coping
actually,
skills.
when
Okay.
you get into it, it's pretty easy to use.
Okay, all right. And then my,
There's so much, and that's why
Yeah.
this is just getting used
Yeah.
to it, and every year getting confident.
no, that's good. I'm just glad to see that, I mean, it sounds like I'm hearing that the teachers are building up their confidence in being able to utilize the curriculum and the supplemental materials that go with it. It's kind of putting it all together. Okay.
But literally, when you have everything on your desk, it's so,
Yeah.
like, there's so much.
You mean like my pile of laundry? Like-
Yes,
Okay.
but it's a good problem to have.
No,
You know,
exactly,
it is. It's
exactly. So, and it sounds like you're solving those problems as you go,
It's
which
navigating,
I'm
it's just
proud of
getting
you. Yeah.
comfortable with all of it, you know,
Okay.
getting comfortable with both platforms and then, you know, being able to put them together and use them efficiently.
Okay. And then my last question, and then I promise I'm done. So do you have after-school tutoring for the intervention kids or the kids that maybe they need to go back on a lesson? Teachers can possibly get paid? I mean, do you have
We
that?
have, well, since now, because we have the buses, it's made that a little bit easier. I think Diana does some after-school tutoring. I know my ELA teacher does. Having the RTI program, you know, we're able to do that. Mr. Foster's also doing some tutoring and doing some pullouts during the day. But yes, we have that available. I think what we want to do next semester, a lot based on, we've been waiting for this benchmark data to
Right.
see. And then really creating those lists, adding, you know, and putting kids into groups, into Diana's classes, her RTI, and then developing study groups from there.
Okay.
It's just making it make sense rather than random, you know, now that we have all this information.
Yeah, you're meeting the group of students at their level, and you're able to, in small
Yeah.
group instruction, which is what we were hoping for. I just didn't know if you had after-school tutoring.
We will on
Okay.
Tuesdays, we can on Tuesdays and Thursdays for whoever is,
For-
you know,
because
able
the
to
bus
do
is
that.
running. Okay. Right.
Any
That's all
other
I have.
questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Our next item is our review of the financial report for September and October. Mr. Roush?
Thank you, President Cottret, members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. Yes, we have reviews of, well, wait a minute, we've got the exciting part of the meeting coming up. Can't leave.
Ivy, it's okay, you guys can go.
Not that exciting.
Anyway, very interesting stuff, very hot off the press. Financial report for September. We do have the front page, and if we get that up, we are honoring our gifted students in September, and I guess we may not be getting that up, but that's okay. And I'll go over a little bit in October, the financial report, Maricopa High School marching Rams performing at Chandler. So with that, again, we're getting a good part of the year there through October. And again, if you look at the first page of the M&O, we're right about where we should be. And along with that, we're analyzing things for next year. We're analyzing our fund balance, because the big question is, can we next year purchase a significant expenditures for our next curriculum purchase. So I'm open to any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Roush?
Nothing for me.
I would like to move that we.
We don't have to
This isn't a,
It's just
isn't a-
work
it's
study.
Oh, it's
just
just a
a
report,
work
so we
study,
wouldn't
yeah.
have to. Okay.
No. Nobody, no questions?
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Roush.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move to our consent agenda. Do I have any motions for that?
Motion to approve as written.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, our next item is our discussion and possible approval of our HR schedule. Mr. Beckett.
Thank you. President Cottret, members of the governing board, Dr. Chestnut, you have the personnel schedule in front of you tonight. I know there were some questions that I fielded via email, but I'll take your questions at this point in time.
Mrs. Anderson, why don't you go ahead?
No, my question is, I just want to ask the board to indulge me. Line item 11, I would like to pull off when we get ready to vote and have a separate discussion, because I do have several page full of questions concerning that, which I already emailed Dr. Chestnut and you. So I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that we're doing. So I want.
So is that a motion to remove?
So
Just vote
when
on
we
11
when we get ready
separately?
to vote the HR without item 11, I think we can do it.
Which is now.
Yeah, we can just do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I just want to move that we take item 11 out of the HR schedule for a separate vote and discussion.
And approve it approve the HR agenda without 11.
You didn't say that.
You guys, you don't have any questions on the HR?
We can still have a discussion
Okay.
after the motion.
All right, okay, so let's start over. I move we approve the HR schedule with the removal of item 11 to have a separate vote and discussion on item 11. Otherwise, the HR schedule, I would like to approve it as it is, without 11.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the HR schedule without line number 11. Any discussion?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to discuss line 11.
Okay. Thank you.
You're on.
Okay, so my questions were this. I don't remember, I guess I question why we need 6 paras at the elementary school when we've got a budget and priorities that were approved by the board and the budget committee. I don't remember this being one of the needs, and so I'm concerned, and I know it's coming out of Title I, but my concern is we have so many other things, especially at our secondary level. So me personally, I would like to see this item come to us as a work study session and really talk about where does that, $156,000 can buy a lot of smart boards.
Or computers.
Or computers. Because, even at the secondary level, I know that my students, my children, there aren't enough computers to take the finals. So I have a problem with spending this money without a discussion on where else that could go. So that's, I would like to see it tabled and brought to work study for further discussion.
And I have some questions along those lines. And I echo Ms. Anderson's comments, but I've always had that position ever since I've been on this board that I don't like we do this big budget process every spring. We've set all these priorities. We budget our budget. And then somehow in the middle of the year, there's this money that
Find
appears
some
and we're
money.
doing something with it. And it has nothing to do with the budget process, it has nothing to do with the priorities that were created from the teachers, from the community, from everybody else that participates in that discussion. And I've brought that up several times, so you all know how I feel about that. So I feel the same way about this item. But the main reason I feel that way is because we don't have an opportunity, especially the way that's being presented tonight, to look at what other options are. So we have this $156,000. What
And
can it
maybe
be
more.
What can it be used for? What was it used for last year, if we had it last year? Why is this a priority? Have we asked the teachers at the elementary schools if they need this? Because I haven't heard from teachers that they need a para. I've heard that they need more computers.
Yeah.
I've heard that they need smart boards. They talked about it today, which in terms of my understanding, Title I money can be used for those things.
Instructional, yes.
And so, like I said, I am just uncomfortable as a board member spending $156,000 of district money without understanding the full picture of where it can be used and what it can be used for before I determine what the priority is for that money. And I agree with Ms. Anderson. I would like a work study so that I can feel comfortable.
I just feel like our secondary students, again, are being shafted because we still have large class sizes. They could use parapros. Computers. There's so many other things, and I just want to see it brought back for discussion.
I believe that I'm going to wish for a magic wand for Santa so we can have a magic tree and have money and to go around. So, but no, in all seriousness, in my site visits, I have heard a lot of the teachers saying that paraprofessionals would be something that they could really use in the classroom. And I think we got to recognize that we do have an increase, not just nationally, we have an increase in students with different types of disabilities that a paraprofessional can really help in the classroom. And even the students who have problems reading, that the paraprofessional can be there. And a paraprofessional, the actual definition of a paraeducator, a paraprofessional, is someone to be alongside somebody. And I think that is, in the classroom, from my perspective, is way more valuable. And I know that technology is important, but I just see that para as someone there to help the teacher. And that's what we want. We want teachers or students to have more access to better their education, and I believe that even more paras can help, especially at the elementary level. And I would love for every classroom to have it, but realistically that's not going to be possible. But I see that at the elementary level that is a very important foundation for our students to have that extra support, and for the teachers, and even just the reading. I know when we were at Santa Rosa, one of the teachers had mentioned, we were talking about this, and about how a paraprofessional could really support the teacher and support the student in just reading. Because I know with a lot of our curriculum changing, and when we're hearing a lot of this, the change, I think that more support in the classroom with the human being versus a computer will be our money well spent.
I agree, but we
I
also
won't
need them in
debate-
secondary. I mean, our middle schools and our high schools,
I won't disagree
they don't
with
have the
that.
academic coaches like
Sure.
the elementary does. So every elementary school has their own academic coach.
Who is supposed to
But-
be providing some of this
Correct.
support. And to your point, and I agree with you, that I love, I mean,
Absolutely.
if all the money in the world, absolutely, approve this without thought, but we don't have that. And my point is, we have to prioritize, and we prioritize our budget every year, and this was not on any of the priorities, and we didn't fund certain priorities on that budget committee list.
It was on there.
It was on there.
Was discussed in
was
the budget
discussed.
committee
But for the entire
process.
district,
But
not
I don't
just
think that
elementary.
it was never finalized. It came up during the.
It came up for
But
discussion.
it was never
not
finalized.
part- It did not
Right.
make the final
It didn't
list.
make the final cut.
It
Right.
didn't.
Because they saw other priorities were more,
I th-
were more in need than that. But that was something that was brought up, and it was something that was desired, but they knew that if they had to choose between this and that the paras,
Right.
as much as they would love to have general paras, because right now we only have our paras that are needed for our special needs. But we are a district that we are putting more and more of our special needs children into the classroom. We're not keeping them pulled out separate. And I've been in the classrooms where a special needs kid who doesn't have to have that one-on-one para, but they're in a classroom and they can be very disruptive, and you have a teacher and you've got 30-something students, elementary level.
No, you don't. We passed an override.
Our classes
Our class
are
sizes have
18 and-
decreased
yeah.
so significantly,
Yeah.
and that's my question. That's my question
There are
about this.
some there are a few classes that have it. We have the stipend in place for those teachers that are over that target range.
I think Ms. Noor's point, and she could correct me if I'm wrong on this, is the light of day aspect to this. The fact that while this did come up during the budget process discussion, all of a sudden it seems as if there was a decision made and that wasn't.
Well, and I think
Correct.
that's a $64,000 question.
Right.
Is where the
to
money
Mr.
came
Beckett.
from.
No, well, for me, it's it appears that there's
I
a
think
need.
that's the
Did
issue
you
here.
evaluate and identify this need for the reason why you put the 6 paraprofessionals on the agenda for approval?
Well, and what other instructional aid do our teachers need?
Well,
K-12, not just elementary. I'm telling you, our secondary schools are struggling. And we've got teachers that are so frustrated because their class sizes are still large, and they could certainly use a para as well. So it's not, my point is, obviously, this needs more discussion.
Right.
And I would like to see us table this item
I
and
think
bring it
that's
back
the
as a
result.
work-study item on the next agenda. That's my motion.
So, well,
Second.
Can we, wait, we're still in discussion.
Sure.
So
Yes.
can we ask Mr. Beckett, was there some type of an assessment or evaluation for the need and the reason why you're requesting the 6
I'll
pairs?
have a
I'll
follow-up
go
to
ahead and,
that.
I'll go ahead and take that.
Thank you. I'll let Dr.
okay.
Chestnut handle that one.
I'll go ahead and take that. You know, it's Title I funds, and so for many years, that has been the source of really all of our curriculum dollars because of budget constraints, right? So typically, Christy Roden, who manages that budget, has earmarked somewhere around $150,000 annually for curriculum materials. And she was waiting to get her Title I budget approved because it's not automatic. We budget a number and then we don't know for certain what that number will be until she finalizes that report, gets it approved by ADE, and that was approved about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, somewhere in there. So then she knew that, yes, she would have this money available, and she did not need to spend the $150,000 on curriculum materials, which has traditionally been mostly math. And so there's a little bit of flexibility there that we didn't have. She has, every year she spends quite a bit of money on computers, and I don't have that with me tonight, how much she spent on computers and carts this year, but she did spend a significant amount on that. So it ends up being this balance. How much technology do we need and how many people do we need to work with kids? And so I think that was her recommendation on how to move forward. But I have no problem with having her come back. She couldn't be here tonight, but to have her come back, give us all the detail on all the options, because really it comes
Yes.
down to curriculum materials, technology, and people. Those are really the 3 instructional support areas, the big ticket items.
That you can use it for.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, I'm not against putting help in the classrooms, but it's my understanding that you can use paras with this money, but you can also have reading and math specialists who have background and training in teaching kids versus a para. And I mean, I want to know the differences between those 2 options too before we approve
Right.
this expenditure.
We're also talking about the mentoring grant running out and possibly
Exactly.
money going towards something like that. I just think, and I
Exactly.
agree again with Ms. Knorr's original statement, is this is a light of day issue, and it's something that I think the board needs to weigh in on and take a look at.
And when we do bring this back, because we do have a motion to table this in a second, so before we take that vote, when we do bring this back for a work study, I would like to see some feedback too from our cabinet, our administrators at the schools, to see what are their greatest needs in their schools. Do they need it? I mean, do all the elementaries really want a para? Do they want,
Do they want smart boards?
do they
want
do they want more computers at the high school? What is the greatest need? And I want it from the mouths of the people that are dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. If we can get some of that feedback, I think that would help the board understand a little bit more and then go forward on this item at a future.
And Dr. Chestnut, can we also have, because I know there's over $1 million that's in Title I funds, can we have a list of when is that released, what's been spent on so far? Because it sounds like there's one person making a decision for over $1 million and of spending. And so I would like a reference as to where it's going, what's been done specifically, and because there are a lot of needs from our teachers that came and did presentations all year, and this was not a priority. It's like, I want to go with what our schools have come to us with, and I'm frustrated
Right.
when I go to my secondary schools, and
And if it was a priority, it would have shown up during the budget process last
Yes.
time. So that's something also to keep in mind here. I know
Well,
that it,
and a lot of items that were brought up last year during those school presentations had to do with technology, and it had to do with curriculum. And we solved the one issue with the math. We're going to be moving forward with ELA, and with the override, we've got those extra funds going now for technology. So some of those things that were presented to us last year, we've already
been
been able
achieved,
to address.
But what
but I'm just saying
supplemental-
there's
correct.
there were a lot of other
But
things. on
is
that
there
list.
more supplemental materials that our teachers need to be successful?
In science, in social
science,
studies.
Or, I mean, I know the chemistry labs, or, I mean,
Right.
there's, it's, there's a bigger picture.
And we need to
that
see it before
I
we
would
vote.
like to see.
Well, and for me, I just like what Dr. Chestnut had stated, that it's a balancing act between technology and real people going in there. And for me, that's why I see that to be imperative. And talking to the teachers, I think from what I'm seeing is that there's definitely a critical need for that. But it's not easy. These aren't easy decisions that we're
Correct.
making, because I know we would love for there to be at all the schools. And how do you balance that? And it's not easy. So.
Okay, so right now, we do have this ready to vote. We've got a motion to table it. We have a second. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we voted, and we're going to table this, and we'll bring this back at another meeting.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Item B, discussion possible approval of scheduling the board meetings, the special board meeting dates regarding the superintendent search. You all got an email with all the dates that we had decided, we discussed at the special board meeting we had when we created the timeline for the superintendent search. After going back and going over this, we were one meeting extra from our budgeted contract. Now, and please keep in mind, that budgeted contract with ASBA was so significantly lower than the other search firms.
yeah.
And to have that additional meeting is only going to be 500 plus expenses, and those expenses aren't going to be that much. When we went through this and we decided these meetings, we really did it with the community in mind. We can, if it's the board's wish, we can go ahead and amend those dates and do a Saturday date instead of doing the 2 evenings. But I know that for some of us, Saturdays are hard. For the community, I don't know if that's a really good fit for the community as well, because we do want them to be involved in some aspects of this. So.
Are you talking about the interview?
Well, you're talking about the interviews. They
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
be involved
that's
in
what,
that.
that's what kicks us right there, the 313 and the 314. We have the initial interviews, and then on that second night is when we decide our finalists in open session. And so we had to have both those meetings because we couldn't do it all in one day.
I'm just going to put it out before we get into the discussion that I'll be willing to take a day to make that a one-day session for interviewing, initial interviews. Instead of making it 2 nights, I'll be willing to just take a day and eat that, but just to be able to save the district that money and make it one day and easier for everyone else.
But I think part of the discussion when we were at our work study is it was hard even to do a full day.
That was a whole day thing that it would
I'm
be
just-
hard.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
putting it
appreciate
out.
that. I mean, I
Spring
can do
break.
that too. It's,
Isn't that
Yes.
yes, that's spring break week.
it was our spring break, but it wasn't.
It
Not
It
his.
wasn't Mr.
Right.
Judd's. Yeah. So I'm open to that, or I say we keep the schedule as is and
It's
pay the
not that- it's
$500
not that
fee
much, really.
for the community forum on that 26th. So.
I think it's also good to have 2 date options, because we're going to be doing interviews for people who are going to be interviewed, to have that flexibility if the 13th or the 14th works better to come interview. But I can do either way.
I'm good either way too. So.
Well,
Mr. Miller,
so
Gary?
here's the deal. When we do make a motion on this, we need to specify those special meeting dates and the time that they'll start, okay? For the motion for the record, so that it can get on our calendar.
Okay.
The only reason I put it out there is because we are incurring that additional money.
But that amount is extremely minimal because of the avenue, and we chose to go to ASBA. They met all of our requirements and was lowest bid, to be honest, extremely low. That $500, I don't think is not going to break the bank. And again, we want to do this with the community stakeholders in mind, our teachers in mind.
Yeah, and my concern, just as history speaks in the back of my head, it is an exhausting process.
Very.
And to be here for a full day, I don't think we do justice to the
The last ones are
interviewees for the last two people.
Well, just going back to the study,
I'm
I know
just
that we
thinking
ended
about
up
it.
breaking it up into 2 days and being nighttime because I wasn't going to be able to be
Right.
present during the day. So I'm just throwing it out there as an option, just in case you want to go.
But more
back to that
forethought,
another
we've
day.
been through this before, and doing it on a whole day, those last few interviews aren't going to get the same attention as our first
if we're
interviews.
fresh, yeah.
Because we're going to be tired.
And
That's just a
hangry.
thought. What'd you say, and hungry?
Hangry.
Hangry.
So the evenings, do you have a preference?
I can make it work.
Okay.
Whatever we do, I'll make it work.
I'm the same way.
Okay, so, I just need someone to make.
I mean, I think I have.
Can we just do as listed?
As is.
No, we really need to spell it out.
Okay.
I mean,
I motion.
I've got it if
Every
you want me
day?
to say
I
it.
got it. I motion that we have a meeting on January 17th that begins at 7 p.m. to review the e-survey results.
You don't even have to say why we're having a
Okay.
meeting, just special
A
board
meeting
meetings on
on,
these days.
special
And the
board
time.
meeting on 2/21, 5:30 p.m. A special board meeting on 3/13 at 5 p.m. A special board meeting at 3/14 at 5 p.m. On 3/23, a special board meeting at 9 a.m. And on 3/26, a special board meeting
At 8 p.m.
at 8 p.m.
No, 6:30.
No, that's a community forum, that's not a.
Oh,
that's
board
not a
meeting,
board
okay,
meeting.
okay.
The
8
board
p.m.
meeting
Got
will
it, got it,
follow
got it.
that.
And I'll second that.
Okay,
motion.
so I have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, discussion and possible approval of the proposed advertising document. This is what we worked on during the meeting. We have to approve this so that we can go forward. Everybody had an opportunity to review it,
Yes,
and
and
you
I,
had an opportunity to get the feedback back to Karen.
we were supposed to call her?
That's what I had it ready to discuss this evening.
Me
but
too.
I did not communicate it
I thought
directly to
maybe
her
you would do that.
Okay, I can do that.
Or
but
Lisa.
I thought we wanted this ready to go.
I just thought we wanted to discuss it
Right.
first.
Okay.
And I know I had a question on this. I'm just
Okay.
trying to find where it was.
All right, Tori, do you have something you
Sure.
want to start with?
Everything looks good. My only question is, or I think it needs to be changed, is on page 2, where it says our community profile.
Yes.
The math does not add up, and because I asked,
Was it the percentage?
yeah, it says,
Yes,
okay,
that's
so
fine.
it says, when Maricopa incorporated in 2003 as the 88th city in Arizona, and actually, I think this whole paragraph is very clumsy. I would like to see it rewritten.
That's what we got from the city. Just
So
It's
the
not big
2000,
fights
well,
now.
I mean, maybe it's just in my head, but this math doesn't add up. It says, the
Right.
2000 census listed us as the population of 1,040, which is correct. It says today, that population has tripled.
Right.
It's more than tripled because
Right.
we're at 50,000 people.
Yes.
So,
That was my question.
okay, because I read it,
I was like, tripled.
and I'm like,
We have more than that in our schools.
yeah. So I don't know what they were
Pers-
thinking, and maybe they inserted something without proofreading it. But I would like to see that second paragraph rewritten, and maybe ASBA can, maybe Heidi Vega can do it at ASBA. She
Well,
offered.
Mr.
but-
Beckett, you got some of that information directly from the city. Can you wordsmith that and make it correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the only issue I had on it too. So when I was reading through it, I'm not the greatest at math.
Yeah,
but
I'm like, triple, that's only about 3,000 people. So that was my question. And like I say, the whole paragraph is just clumsy to me. It just does
Yeah.
not.
That's easily fixed.
Yeah, I thought it would, but I just
That's
wanted to make
easily
sure that
fixed.
the
Okay.
numbers are right. So
Um,
that was my only change.
I just had one small, it's the top of second page, the bullet list where it talks about the money that we received in grants for NBCT, and I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity considering that we have an outrageous percentage and compared with our peers with the rest of the state, and maybe just a one-liner that this supports, because of the amount of NBC teachers that we have, maybe just a little blurb at the end of that to kind of highlight.
How many teachers we
yes,
And how we
exactly.
support it as
Exactly.
a district. Yeah. Yeah.
Got that, Mr. Beckett?
My-
Yeah, go ahead.
So are we going to be able to approve it tonight?
Well, we can approve it, wouldn't be word for word.
With mentioned amendments?
We could put it with mentioned amendments. The issue is that we wanted to get this out as soon as possible. I don't know if you all saw the
Timeline.
breaking news that went today that, Mesa
Mesa's
put
hiring.
theirs out there. Yeah, their superintendent is retiring. So they put that out there today. We wanted to try to get ours out just as quickly.
As long as those numbers are changed, because, we really have exploded to over 50,000. So that, I would rather say something like that than tripled.
If I can just clarify, I did pull this directly from the city, and evidently something got missed.
Okay.
Because during the following 2 years, it's right after that 1,040, during the following 2 years, the population exploded to 15,934, earning it the title fastest growing city in the United States. Today, the population has tripled.
Okay.
Past the 15,000, which is what,
Okay,
that was
so
actually my edit.
can you fix that and just add that sentence back in there? Okay.
But it still sounds, to me, that's just awkward. I'd rather just say, we started out at 1,000 and now we're over 50,000. It's, the time you go, oh, we had 15,000, now it's tripled. It's like, no, just do the math. We have over 50,000 people. Just say it.
Got that, Mr. Beckett? And then in that bullet point, we're going to add how many teachers that we have that are certified and going through the program.
Which the last I checked was first in the state. That's a nice
Yeah.
thing to add.
Any other?
Percentage-wise of.
Percentage-wise, correct.
Percentage-wise, yeah.
Oh, good-
Not
good
number,
point.
not number of teachers, but percentage-wise,
Percentage of
yes.
teachers. Yeah.
Any other questions or amendments to this? And
Just
yes,
at the bottom, Maricopa rocks, or the greatest city on the planet.
I'll motion to approve the advertising document related to the position of district superintendent as amended.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to get this rocking really quick. Okay. Next item, discussion and possible approval of the first reading of revised policy JFB open enrollment. Dr. Chestnut?
Yeah, there's some underlying language in there that was previously in the exhibit, and it was a little more informal, and so we talked to the attorney, and the advice was that we put it in policy language and make it clear that there is an appeal process, kind of spell it out, and this has worked well for us, and we just want to formalize the language a little bit and recommend approval.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion regarding this?
I just have a question. So has this issue come up, Dr. Chestnut, with
No.
open enrollment and the kids need to go back to their home school? Has
Not
this
very
issue come
often.
up? Okay.
It has come up,
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years.
But it's nice to have in policy.
It is sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
It is being recommended that we put it in policy.
Barring any further discussion, motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, discussion and possible approval of the annual review of policy IHBJ, the Indian Education Policy and Procedures. Dr. Chestnut?
We're just required to have an annual review of the policy, no changes.
The first thing that really stuck out to me, I thought we changed the term Indian to Native American.
We couldn't because of, was that because of?
Well, it's ASBA. 'cause remember
No, it wasn't ASBA. It was actually an ARS statute.
Yes, I believe that's true, but we did change it in the body of
ours.
the policy, just not the title.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all here.
So then the headline, that cannot be changed.
Correct.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
Unfortunately,
regarding these.
because it refers back to the
State law.
ARS statute.
Okay.
So, Dr. Chestnut,
say
can
we
that
have
be
to
a
have a
good question
policy
for
named
Chris
this,
Thomas
yeah.
at ASBA?
That's who told us we couldn't change it. When
You did?
when we inquired last year, yeah.
Well, maybe we should do a letter from as a board
I would agree with that.
and request that ASBA get up to
Look into
speed
the
because
matter.
they are doing all this equity stuff and
Correct.
making sure.
Well, and find out what's necessary to change it. Is it a state law? Well, let's
Right,
get a bill.
let's change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we have a lobbyist here.
Yes.
Come on,
Right.
let's
There we
make this
go.
happen.
Okay,
Miss Moore to the rescue.
I'll tell you what, someone draft that letter, get that to Lisa, we'll put it on the next agenda for us to approve as a board, and
Send
we'll
ASB.
sign it and
Just
send
to
it
send
out.
it ASB.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to
Yep.
suggest.
Yeah,
I
I'll-
love it. You know what?
I'll be glad
Correcting
to.
a mistake
Will you do
since
that?
Sure, I'll draft a letter,
1492.
sure.
Okay.
Because,
I
you know,
think, I
we-
think if we have a letter and
Yeah.
it shows unity that the entire board is backing it, it'll go a little bit further, hopefully. We can get things changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth the try. It's like
Absolutely.
They keep pushing, you know,
Oh, yes.
and it's like, okay, well,
Let's fix the
this.
obvious.
Right.
All right.
thank you. That was my only comment, too, so
So,
thank you, Dr. Miller.
okay, so we still have, we have a motion?
Do we have a
Right. Was
motion?
there a motion?
No, are we done with discussion
Okay.
then? I would, we're done with discussion, then I would like to move to approve policy IHBJ, Indian Education Policy, as written, as provided.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, our next three items. Item F, G, and H. These are all approved to adjourn to executive session for each reason. In the motion, it has to be stipulated out for each reason.
Okay. Well, I would motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ARS 431.03A3. The board may convene to hold executive session for discussion or consultation for legal advice from the board's attorney regarding student appeal. Number two, approve to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ARS 15-843. A6, the board may convene in executive session to consider and take action of a student appeal matter for student A. And number three, approve to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ARS 15-843A6. The board may convene in executive session to consider and take action on a student appeal matter for student B.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are in executive session. It is 7:09.
I know, our computers are. Oh, mine are like that.